The price of a phone call. He said, "Erase my number." 4 years later, he saw his sons. Before you scroll, ask yourself, can you ever truly forgive someone who told you to disappear? Hit subscribe and smash the like button, because this story is about to test the limits of second chances. The car, the rain, the echo. 4 years ago, he told her to erase his number and never call again. Ethan Sterling, a rising tech mogul, didn't look back when he delivered the final definitive blow. His voice was cold, his choice clear. Now, Ethan is sitting in his black sedan, idling across the street from a small, unassuming house in a quiet Seattle suburb, waiting. He is waiting to see the 2 small boys, his twin sons, whose existence he never knew. From her window, Olivia Rhodes saw his car, a sleek, dark shadow against the evening light, before it finally drove away, 4 years ago. The memory of his voice still resonates, sharp and final. "Erase my number and don't call me again." The wound is healed, but the scar remains. And tonight, the man who vanished is parked outside, forced to confront the life he unknowingly abandoned. Part 1. The erased memory. The days after Ethan left were a blur of numbness. Olivia went through the motions of life, work, home, repeat. But inside, she was slowly crumbling. Every corner of her small Seattle flat carried his ghost. The scent of his cologne on a forgotten shirt, the half-finished coffee mug he'd left behind. She told herself to burn it all, to erase him just as he had erased her. But a stubborn part of her refused. She clung to the fading hope that he would call, that this was all a mistake born of anger and pride. But the phone remained silent, and the days bled into weeks of agonizing silence. She became adept at faking it. At work, she smiled, offered simple excuses for her distraction, and pushed down the sleepless nights and the gnawing anxiety. Her friends tried to comfort her, but their words were hollow. They didn't understand the singular, shattering pain of being abandoned by the one person who had sworn she was his future. Then, one morning, everything changed. Standing before the bathroom mirror, pale and exhausted, she felt a profound, undeniable sense of unease. Her trembling hands reached for the test she had bought the night before. The minutes stretched into hours. When she saw the result, 2 solid lines, she collapsed onto the edge of the tub. She didn't cry immediately. She simply stared at the small plastic stick in disbelief. Fear, shock, and confusion collided in her mind. But beneath it all, an unexpected, fierce pang of love emerged. She pressed her palm to her stomach, realizing that a new life had chosen her, even when he had not. Tears finally came, a silent, cleansing torrent for the shattered future, for the family that would never be, and for the child who would never know a father's arms. But within the grief, a fragile determination sparked. She would raise this child. She would love this child enough for 2. Part 2. Building the Fortress of One. The subsequent months were harder than anything Olivia had ever endured. She navigated the crippling morning sickness and endless fatigue alone, working until her back ached and her eyes burned from exhaustion. She never told Ethan. She wrote one message, during a night overwhelmed by loneliness, but she remembered his final, cold command. "Erase my number." She deleted the message instead. He had made his choice. She would make hers. She named the boys Ethan Jr. and Liam. The names were simple, strong, fitting for the 2 tiny miracles who had already survived so much. The moment the doctor placed the identical, perfect newborns on her chest, her heart simultaneously shattered and healed. In the quiet of the hospital room, she told the nurse, "No father's name." The first year was a relentless test. Sleepless nights were spent sitting on the floor between their cots, rocking one while softly singing to the other. Her body ached. Her bank account was consistently near empty. Yet somehow, she managed. She took freelance design jobs, working late into the night while the twins slept beside her. Ethan Jr. became the louder one, always first to laugh, first to crawl, fearless and curious. Liam was gentler, a quiet observer. They were different, yet so connected that if one cried, the other instantly stirred, as if their hearts were synchronized. The money was scarce, but Olivia found joy in the small victories. The first time she could afford matching blue jackets for their park walk, the overwhelming pride when people commented on their beauty, and the inevitable resemblance to their absent father. She had stopped hating Ethan, not because he deserved forgiveness, but because hatred consumed energy she needed for her sons. Every milestone, first steps, first words, first birthday, was a powerful affirmation. She was enough. She told herself she needed nothing more. But deep down, beneath the armor of her strength, a small ache whispered, "What if? What if he saw them? What if he realized everything he missed?" Interaction point. Olivia chose to remain silent to protect herself and her children. Do you agree with her decision? Or should she have told Ethan, regardless of his past actions? Cast your vote in the comments below. Part 3. The moment of devastation. Ethan Sterling was a man who commanded control, but lately, even his perfectly constructed world felt like a tightening cage. His divorce had finalized quietly, a mere transaction. Yet despite his wealth and authority, he was plagued by a gnawing void. He would pause during meetings when a memory of Olivia's laugh crossed his mind. The recollection of her eyes the day he uttered those cruel words still haunted him. He rationalized his decision as necessary, but the lie became harder to bear with each passing year. 4 years later, on an ordinary Thursday, fate forced him to look. His driver stopped at a traffic light near a small suburban park. Ethan, scrolling on his phone, barely noticed until something outside caught his eye. A woman was kneeling by the playground, laughing as 2 small boys ran circles around her. Her laugh was faint, but unmistakable. When she turned her head slightly, the air left his lungs. Olivia. He thought his mind was playing tricks, conjuring her out of guilt. But as he stared, he knew. Her hair was longer, sun-kissed. She looked softer, yet stronger. And when she bent to lift one of the boys, Ethan's heart stopped. The boy turned, and the breath cut off in Ethan's throat. Dark hair, blue eyes. His eyes. Both boys shared his features, identical in every way, as if his face had been split into 2 smaller versions. He didn't need a DNA test. They were his sons. He had left her, and she had brought his children into the world alone. His chest constricted with the sudden, agonizing clarity. His entire world collapsed into one devastating moment. He rushed out of the car, standing on the pavement, too far for Olivia to see him. He watched as she took both boys' hands, their laughter a beautiful, unbearable sound. For the first time, Ethan felt truly helpless. He realized that while he had been chasing profits and expansion, he had missed the most important creation of his life. Part 4. The Silent Siege. That night, Ethan sat parked across the street from her house. He stayed for hours, watching the lights dim inside. Every instinct told him to leave, to respect the life she had built without him. But the part of him that had been silent for years refused to move. He returned the next night, and the night after that. It became a ritual. He watched the boys run in the yard, their laughter filling the air, filling him with both joy and unbearable regret. He was shattered and healed at once by seeing Olivia, content, proud, a survivor. He wanted to apologize, to tell her he was a coward, that he would trade everything he owned to go back in time. But fear held him back. Fear that she would look at him with that same broken silence from 4 years ago. Interaction point. Ethan is now parked outside their house every night. Is this love or stalking? What extreme gesture, legal or personal, do you think he is planning to make next to force a meeting? Share your thoughts. Part 5. The confrontation and the crack. On the 5th morning, Ethan finally drove to her house, his heart pounding against his ribs. He parked directly in front, the familiar windows tormenting him. The door opened, and Olivia stepped out, helping the twins put on their jackets. She looked up, her eyes locking onto his. Time froze. Her expression shifted from confusion to recognition, and then to something hard. Cautious, he forced himself out of the car. The silence between them was dense with unvanquished memories. "Olivia," he said, his voice rough with guilt. "You shouldn't be here. You lost that right when you walked away." Ethan nodded, accepting the words he knew he deserved. "I know, but I can't stay away anymore." He looked at the boys, their blue eyes, his eyes, and his throat closed up. "They're mine, aren't they?" Olivia gave a short, almost imperceptible nod. Yes. The single word hit him with the force of a physical blow. He looked at his sons, unable to bridge the gap between them. "What do you want from us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You made it clear you didn't want anything that came with me." "I want to know them," he said, desperate. "I want to fix things, even if I can't undo what I did. I let fear run my life. I told myself ambition was everything, but it wasn't. You were." Olivia laughed bitterly. "You think it's that easy? I raised them alone. I worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over their heads. So don't stand here pretending you want to fix things when the only reason you're here is guilt." "You're right," he said, his voice low and firm. "I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't expect it. But they deserve to know who I am. I just want a chance to be a part of their lives, if you allow it." She studied him. The boys, unaware of the storm, tugged at her sleeves. Finally, Olivia exhaled, her voice low, but steady. "I need time. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if they should." Ethan nodded, accepting the small opening as the only hope he had. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." She turned, taking his boy's hands, and walked toward the door, pausing once to look back at him. Her expression was not forgiveness, but a conflicted, cautious humanity. He watched them disappear inside, the door closing in silence. For the first time in years, he felt a faint spark of hope. Part 6. The long road of consistency. Ethan spent the following days in a daze, his routine meaningless without them. He found himself driving back to their neighborhood on the 5th day. He parked further away this time, but the sound of his car door closing made Olivia turn. "You shouldn't be here again," she said, though the sharpness was gone. "I tried to wait," he admitted, "but I can't pretend staying away will make any of this easier." She finally conceded. "The boys keep asking who you are. They don't understand." "I'd like to be someone they can know now," he said, his tone soft but resolute. "Allow me to start somewhere, even if it's just as a friend to them." After a long silence, one of the boys, Ethan Jr., tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mommy, who is he?" Olivia knelt. "He's someone from before." Ethan Jr. looked at the kneeling man. "Do you like cars?" he asked suddenly. Ethan smiled, the first genuine smile in years. "Yes, I like cars very much." That was the crack. Olivia relented. "You can walk with us. Just today. That's all." They walked together to the park, the twins running ahead. Olivia maintained her distance, but when they sat on a bench, neither spoke of the past. Ethan simply watched his sons, feeling something sealed inside him finally open. "They're perfect," he murmured. Olivia's eyes softened. I know I can't fix the past, but if you give me time, I'll show you I'm not that man anymore." He helped Liam tie a shoelace, a small, simple act that felt monumental. As the sun began to set, Olivia gathered the children. Before getting into the car, she looked at him once more. "I don't know what this means yet," she said softly. "But they liked you today. That's a start." He watched them drive away, his heart beating with a mix of relief and longing. He knew it would take time, perhaps years, to mend what he had broken. But he also knew he would never stop trying. Part 7. The Test of the Storm and the First Dad. The slow, painstaking process of rebuilding continued for months. Ethan showed up every evening, consistent and kind. He never rushed her, never demanded more than she was ready to give. He traded in boardroom deals for Lego towers and ambition for presents. The twins adored him, calling him a simple, easy nickname. Then, one night, disaster struck. Liam fell ill with a dangerously high fever. Panic filled the house. Olivia was about to rush him to the hospital when the doorbell rang. Ethan stood outside, soaked by the rain, his face etched with worry. "I saw your lights on," he said, breathless. "Is everything all right?" Olivia stepped aside. "It's Liam. His fever won't break." Without a word, Ethan went straight to the boys' room. He knelt by the bed, checked Liam's forehead, his hand soft and secure. "He needs fluids. We need to get him checked out." Together, they drove to the hospital. In the sterile emergency room, Ethan stayed by her side, not speaking, just holding her hand in silence. For the first time, she didn't pull away. His grip was firm, comforting, constant. When the doctor confirmed it was just a viral infection, Olivia crumbled in relief. Ethan didn't say anything, simply put an arm around her and let her cry. Later, as he tucked Liam into bed, he turned to Olivia. "Thank you. You didn't have to let me come." He shook his head slowly. "I will always come," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Those words echoed in her mind long after he left that night. She began to see that he was no longer the man who walked away. He was the man who had stayed. A few weeks later, it happened. Ethan Jr. fell while playing outside, scraping his knee. Crying, the boy clung to him and said, "Daddy, it hurts." The word hung in the air. Ethan froze, his throat closing. Olivia watched from the porch, waiting for him to correct the child. He didn't. He simply hugged him tighter and whispered, "It's okay. I've got you." Later, when Olivia asked if the word had been too much, Ethan shook his head, his eyes bright. "It's everything I've ever wanted." The final epilogue. The home they chose. The slow crawl of spring months brought a new kind of warmth. Ethan was there every night now. The children called him Daddy without hesitation. Olivia still watched him, cautious, but the cracks between them had become bridges. One night, after the twins were asleep, they sat together on the sofa. Ethan reached for her hand. She hesitated, then allowed her fingers to rest gently on his. "I spent years chasing things that didn't matter," he said, his voice low. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to keep earning my place here, one day at a time." Olivia turned to him. "You are not the same man. But forgiveness isn't about forgetting, Ethan. It's about believing someone can change. I want to believe that. They married quietly a few months later in the backyard garden, where everything had begun again. The twins, wearing matching outfits, proudly carried the rings. At the moment he reached her, Ethan took her hands and said, "I used to think success was about everything I could possess. Now I know it's about everything I refuse to lose again." She smiled through her tears. "You didn't lose us. You found your way home." That night, as Ethan held her by the window, he looked at the quiet, beautiful life they had reclaimed. "The first time I saw you again, I thought I was being punished. Now I realize it was a second chance." She turned in his arms. Perhaps it was both. Sometimes love has to break before it learns how to last. The ultimate question: what does this entire journey of pain and reconciliation tell you about the difference between ambition and legacy? Share your final heartfelt thoughts on Ethan and Olivia's future in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to see the power of genuine change. Epilogue 4. The stability test and the return of the past. Will a challenge from the past destabilize their hard-won peace? Hit subscribe and leave a comment. What is the biggest mistake Ethan must avoid when facing his ex-fiancée? The quiet luxury of presence. 2 years after their quiet backyard wedding, the Sterling Rhodes family life had settled into an unwavering structure. Olivia's small house no longer felt silent and vast. It was packed tight with the laughter of the twins. Ethan Jr. and Liam, now 6, the smell of morning coffee, and the scent of wood from Olivia's new design projects. Ethan had stepped down from the CEO role, becoming chairman, while focusing on clean tech innovation and philanthropy, all run from his home office so he could do the school pickup. He had learned that true luxury wasn't a sports car or a penthouse, but the ability to spend 15 minutes helping Liam solve a simple math problem or fixing Ethan Jr.'s broken toy car. His relationship with Olivia was built on radical honesty. They didn't pretend the past didn't exist, but they chose to live by one rule. Suspicion is dead. Trust is the air they breathe. A cold reminder from Manhattan. Everything shifted on a warm Friday afternoon. Olivia was making dinner when Ethan's phone rang with an unfamiliar number from New York. He answered, his expression immediately tightening. The voice on the other end was Victoria Stone, his ex-fiancée, the socialite he had almost been forced to marry after leaving Olivia, a symbol of the elite world he had escaped. "Ethan," her voice was sharp and proprietary, "I hear you've married and had children. All the things you claimed were impossible for your future. I need to see you, urgently. This is about an old Rivers Tech lawsuit, and I'm the only witness who can protect the reputation you fought so hard to keep." Ethan, despite changing his company's focus and building a new life, felt a familiar chill run down his spine. It wasn't a threat, but a cold reminder of the ties he had tried so hard to sever. He hung up. Olivia was standing in the doorway, instantly reading the tension on his face. "Who was that?" she asked, not with suspicion, but with immediate alertness. "Victoria Stone," Ethan admitted, sighing. "She claims it's about an old lawsuit from my CEO days, an issue that could affect my new philanthropic foundation. She wants to meet in New York." The test of trust. Olivia walked closer, placing a warm hand on his arm. "What does she want? She never does anything that doesn't benefit her." "Exactly," Ethan said. "I don't trust her, but I also can't afford to let our name get dragged into a potential scandal that could harm the work I'm trying to build." Olivia looked deep into his eyes. This wasn't the arrogant man from 4 years ago, the one who would secretly run off to handle things alone. "You are not going alone," Olivia said decisively. "We are not operating in the shadows anymore. We handle this together. If it's about business, I'll be in the meeting. If it's about anything else, she will have to face both of us." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude and love. He had shattered her trust once, and now she was offering it to him unconditionally. Interaction point. If you were Olivia, would you let Ethan go meet Victoria Stone alone to avoid conflict, or would you insist on going with him to show unity? Comment your advice. The power of us. The meeting took place in a discreet Manhattan cafe. Victoria arrived, still stunning and sharp, but she paused when she saw Olivia sitting next to Ethan. "Olivia," Victoria said, her tone laced with disdain. "What a surprise. I thought this was a business meeting." "It is a family business," Olivia replied calmly, her slight smile belying a steely resolve. Throughout the conversation, Victoria tried to invoke old memories, hinting at Ethan's lost career, and largely ignoring Olivia's presence. She presented a proposed deal. She would remain silent about the old lawsuit in exchange for a large investment in her own charity, along with a request to meet Ethan alone to discuss finer details. Ethan watched Victoria. She didn't care about the lawsuit. She was trying to buy his attention and create a wedge. Ethan set the documents down, his voice utterly devoid of emotion, adopting the cold CEO persona, but with a new warmth reserved only for his family. "Thank you for your time, Victoria," he said. "The legal matter is simple. We will submit all the evidence we have to Rivers Tech's lawyers and let them handle it. We are not negotiating." Victoria was incensed. "What are you doing, Ethan? You're risking your reputation for a marriage that hangs on—" She glanced scornfully at Olivia. Ethan cut her off, his hand firmly grasping Olivia's, publicly and surely. "I traded my career and my old life for what you call an arrangement." He looked straight into Victoria's eyes. "I am not that man anymore. My life, my decisions, and my reputation are now built by my wife and my 2 sons. We are a team, and I will never again let anything threaten the home I fought to rebuild." Victoria Stone had no further words. She understood she had failed. Ethan and Olivia returned to Seattle, having not only resolved the external threat, but passed a crucial test. The return of the past did not weaken them. It only highlighted the strength of their present choice. Their stability is proven. What's next? Would you like to see a new challenge in Ethan and Olivia's journey? A focus on work-life balance with the twins, or a memorable family vacation? Comment your favorite idea. Epilogue. The unplanned journey and the true measure of success. The Sterling Rhodes family is on a wild adventure. What is the most important lesson Ethan needs to teach his sons? Comment below and subscribe for the final heartwarming moment. A necessary pause. Summer arrived, bringing with it relentless activity. Olivia was deep into a major design bid, while Ethan was engrossed in launching his new philanthropic foundation. Both noticed the fatigue etched on each other's faces, and the subtle disappointment in Ethan Jr. and Liam's eyes when a park outing had to be postponed. One evening, after Ethan finished a late conference call, he found Olivia sitting on the floor, surrounded by blueprints and cold coffee mugs. She looked up, offering a tired smile. "We're doing it again, aren't we?" Olivia sighed. "We're letting work become everything, not out of ambition, but because we want to build a solid foundation. But we're forgetting why we built it." Ethan understood immediately. He had learned the ultimate lesson about pursuing a career over people. This time, he wouldn't make the same mistake. The next morning, Ethan did something the Ethan of 4 years ago never would. He canceled every meeting for the next 2 weeks, rented a compact recreational vehicle, RV, and drew up a simple plan. "Family," he announced at breakfast, causing the twins to look up from their cereal. "We are leaving. Phones off, email closed. We're spending 2 weeks outdoors in Olympic National Park. Nothing is more important." Caleb and Finn bounced with glee. Olivia looked at him, her eyes shining. "You are truly a grown man now, Ethan Sterling." The road to reconnection, the trip, was a beautiful chaos. Ethan, the man who once lived in the luxury of first-class flights and 5-star hotels, was now struggling to set up tents, learning how to cook over an open flame, and figuring out the best spot to park the RV. Olivia laughed. Her laughter carried no more reserve or past injury, only pure ease and genuine joy. They did everything together, washing dishes under cold running water, hunting for insects with the boys, and telling terrible jokes around the campfire. In the quiet nights, after the boys were asleep, Ethan and Olivia sat outside beneath the starlit sky. "Did you ever think we'd be here?" Olivia asked, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Never," Ethan admitted. I used to think happiness was a milestone to be conquered. But it's just these moments, the campfire, the smell of pine, and knowing that no matter what happens, we are standing together. The true measure, the final day of the trip, while they were hiking, Liam slipped and dropped the small compass Ethan had bought him. It rolled down into a deep, rocky crevice. Liam started to cry, and Ethan Jr. pouted. Ethan looked down into the crevice, then at his son's sad faces. The compass was replaceable, but this moment was not. Instead of telling them to forget it, Ethan unstrapped his expensive wristwatch, a Patek Philippe gifted by his father as a symbol of his career, and slipped it into his pocket. He secured a sturdy rope, told the boys to hold tight, and slowly climbed down into the crevice to retrieve the inexpensive toy. When Ethan scrambled back up, his face smeared with dirt, the scratched compass in his hand, Liam rushed him with a hug. "Thank you, Daddy, you're a hero," Liam sniffled. Ethan Jr., the less expressive twin, looked at his father's dirty, sweaty state and noticed the absence of his watch. "You left your expensive watch," he said with surprise. Ethan wiped his face, hugging both boys tightly. "That's right," he said, "because this compass tells me where you are, and that watch only tells me what time it is. And now, I know there is nothing more important than being right here with both of you. Never again. That is the only lesson I need to remember." Olivia watched from a distance, understanding that this was the moment Ethan's redemption became complete. He sacrificed his old success, the watch, to affirm his new value, the compass, his presence, and his son's safety. The final promise, when the RV rolled back into Seattle, they returned not tired, but with a sense of clarity and peace. That night, after the children were asleep, Ethan and Olivia lay together. "You don't have to do crazy things like that to prove anything, Ethan," Olivia whispered, a smile still lingering on her face. "I know," he said, pulling her close. "But I needed to do that for myself. To remind myself that Ethan Sterling's success is no longer measured by a bank balance, but by the smiles of my two boys and the trust of my wife." They lay there, feeling the slow, steady heartbeat of a love that had been broken, rebuilt, and was now stronger than ever. Their journey didn't end with a perfect moment, but with the quiet acknowledgement that life is a continuous series of choices, choosing presence over absence, choosing trust over doubt, and choosing family over fame. That is the meaningful conclusion to Ethan and Olivia's story. What are your final takeaways? Comment your thoughts on the biggest lesson Ethan learned. The boardroom clash and the uncompromised life. Epilogue. Quicks. The boardroom clash and the uncompromised life. Can Ethan protect his new values from his old world? Comment below. If Ethan's former company threatens his charity, what is the best move for him? Don't forget to subscribe. The unwelcome return. 6 months after the camping trip, the Sterling Rhodes family life continued to thrive. Olivia was busy with a major design project for her sustainable architecture firm, while Ethan was focused on launching his Green Compass Foundation. However, the old world was not ready to let him go easily. One afternoon, while Ethan was in his home office, he received a call from Edward Vance, the new CEO of Rivers Tech, a former rival and confidant of Ethan's estranged father. Edward demanded an urgent meeting. Ethan met Edward at a high-end downtown Seattle coffee shop. Edward, still clad in an expensive suit and an air of entitlement, laid out an unpleasant proposition. "Look, Ethan," Edward said, placing a stack of documents on the table. "Your Green Compass Foundation is attracting too much attention. Rivers Tech investors don't like their former CEO promoting renewable technologies that compete with our core interests. We want you to either scale back the foundation, or better yet, sell it to one of our subsidiaries." Edward smirked. Your name is still tied to our reputation. If you don't cooperate, we will apply pressure to your major sponsors by bringing up those minor legal issues from the past, the ones we agreed to keep quiet. It was an unmistakable threat. His past life was trying to drag him back by leveraging his old mistakes to taint the good he was now doing. The unbreakable wall. Ethan looked at Edward, completely unmoved. Instead of anger or fear, he felt an absolute calm. He thought of Liam and Ethan Jr. laughing by the campfire. "Thank you for the reminder, Edward," Ethan said, his voice level. "But I am no longer bound by your rules. Rivers Tech is no longer my priority, and my interests are no longer their concern." "Don't make this difficult, Ethan," Edward warned. "You have a family to protect. Do you want your name smeared across the tabloids again?" Ethan took out his phone, snapping photos of the documents and contracts Edward had brought. "I learned a very expensive lesson about living in secrecy and under threat, Edward," Ethan stated. "I will never do that again." He stood up. "Tell Rivers Tech they have two options. 1, they cease all attempts to interfere with my charitable work, and I will continue to remain silent about their internal activities. 2, they continue to threaten me, and I will proactively release every issue I know about Rivers Tech's history, not to harm my reputation, but to protect the truth." Ethan didn't wait for Edward's response. He walked out of the cafe, leaving behind the arrogance and hustle of the corporate world. Choosing clarity over comfort, when Ethan arrived home, he told Olivia everything. He detailed the threat and his countermove. "Last time," Olivia said, placing her hand over his, "you chose to avoid confrontation, and you lost everything. What are you doing this time?" "I'm choosing clarity over comfort," Ethan replied instantly. "I won't let them use my past mistakes to sabotage the right things I'm building." He spent the evening preparing files. He was ready not only to expose Rivers Tech's internal issues, but also to release his entire story, including his personal failings. He realized that Edward's strongest weapon wasn't the threat itself, but Ethan's silence. The next day, Ethan sent the email to Edward. It wasn't a threat, but a notice. "I will not comply with your demands. Should there be any move against the Foundation, I will release the entire story. Remember, I am no longer the man who fears the truth. I am the man who chooses it." His courage worked. Edward did not reply. The interference with the Foundation's sponsors abruptly ceased. The quiet triumph. That evening, Ethan and Olivia sat on the floor with their two sons. Liam was assembling a car model, and Ethan Jr. was asking Ethan about how cars would work in the future. "Dad," Ethan Jr. asked, "how do you know if a car is good?" Ethan smiled, pulling his son close. "It's not just about speed, son. It's about whether it's sustainable, whether it can carry your family safely for a long time, and whether it's kind to the environment." He looked over at Olivia, then pulled her close. "People are the same way. It doesn't matter how rich or famous they are. What matters is if they are durable, if they can love you long term, and if they are brave enough to always choose the right thing." Ethan looked at Olivia's serene face, at his sons playing innocently, and he understood. He had won the final battle with his old world, not by defeating an opponent, but by protecting the life he had chosen. His success was not measured by how much money he made, but by how willing he was to risk everything to protect this home. That was a powerful conclusion to Ethan's confrontation. I can now offer a final epilogue, focusing on one last cherished family memory. Would you like a final heartwarming chapter centered on a family travel tradition, or a quiet, meaningful moment between only Ethan and Olivia? The current story has reached a strong and meaningful conclusion, encompassing the initial betrayal, the shocking reunion, the legal battles, and the final establishment of their uncompromised family values. It feels complete. However, since you enjoyed the journey so much, I can offer one final, deeply intimate, Epilogue 7. Focusing on a quiet moment between only Ethan and Olivia, a reflection on their past and a look towards their future, free from external threats. This will provide a truly final, emotional closing note. Here is the ultimate conclusion to the story of Ethan and Olivia. Epilogue 7. The Quiet Certainty. This is the final chapter. What is the lasting message you will take away from Ethan and Olivia's story? Share your thoughts below, and know that the power of choice defines our true ending. The empty cupboard. The house was finally quiet. Ethan Jr. and Liam were asleep, their energy depleted after a day of building a massive, messy fort in the living room. Olivia was in the kitchen, wiping down the counters, a small, tired smile on her face. Ethan found her leaning against the counter, staring at an empty space where an old, rusted hook used to be. A hook that once held a half-finished coffee mug he had left behind 4 years ago, a silent monument to his sudden departure. "What are you looking at?" Ethan asked softly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "That spot," she murmured, leaning back into his embrace. "It used to hold the ugly coffee mug you left the day you told me to erase your number. I kept it for months. It was a stupid, painful symbol of everything you took." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "I remember that mug, and I remember the shame every time I thought of it. I broke it, finally," Olivia said. "The day I got the boys' first school portraits, I realized I didn't need the shame anymore, because I had proof of the beautiful, full life I built without you." She turned in his arms, her eyes meeting his. "When you came back, I thought you were trying to fix the mug, to glue the past back together. But you didn't. You built a new cupboard." The unspoken forgiveness. Ethan looked around their kitchen, the heart of their home. It was filled with mismatched mugs, crayon drawings stuck to the fridge, and the quiet warmth of shared domesticity. "I can never fix the pain I caused Liv," Ethan said, his voice raw with sincerity. "That scar is yours to keep, and I respect that. But I hope that by showing up every day, by choosing honesty over comfort, I've proven that the man who broke the mug is dead." Olivia reached up, placing her hand gently on his cheek. "The man who broke the mug gave me 2 perfect sons, Ethan. And the man who built this life, the man who risked his fortune to protect our peace from Edward Vance, is the man I married." She smiled, a peaceful, complete smile. "I stopped measuring my forgiveness in words a long time ago. I measure it in your presence, and you are here. That is all I will ever need to know." The final legacy. They stood in comfortable silence, listening to the soft, distant murmur of their children sleeping. The city lights of Seattle twinkled outside their window, no longer symbols of corporate ambition, but the quiet backdrop to their intimate reality. "I once thought my legacy was the sterling name on a skyscraper," Ethan whispered. "Now I know it's the St. Clair's on a backpack, and the fact that I learned to use a simple compass." He kissed her, a slow, deep kiss that held all the promises of the future and the acceptance of the past. It was a kiss of quiet certainty. Their story was not about an instant redemption, but a profound, hard-won reconciliation, a testament that broken things can not only be rebuilt, but can become stronger at the seams where they were once torn. They were home, and this time, they were staying. Thank you for co-writing this beautiful and powerful story with me. It has reached its complete and final conclusion. I hope you enjoyed the journey. Would you like to start a brand new story now? Or is there anything else I can help you with?